A boat doing 40 miles an hour has no way to stop. None. There's no pedal to stomp and nothing on the whole boat that hauls it to a halt the way the brakes on your truck do. Cut the power in a car and it rolls to a stop in a few seconds. Cut the power on a boat at 40 and it just keeps going. Sometimes the length of a football field. And sometimes a lot farther, gliding across the water while you stand there holding a wheel that's doing almost nothing. Most people never think about this until the first time they're pointed at a dock and the boat isn't slowing the way their gut swears it should. That's the moment it hits them. The thing they're driving doesn't actually stop. So why does a machine that can hit highway speeds skip the other part every other vehicle treats as non-negotiable? The answer is hiding in the water itself. And once you understand it, you'll understand why the only real brake you've got can also sink your own boat. And why the biggest ships on Earth start stopping 15 miles before they ever reach the dock. Start with why your car can stop at all, because that's where the whole thing makes sense. A brake works on a friction. The pad clamps the rotor, the tires bite the road, and the bite is what kills your speed. Every bit of it depends on something solid sitting still underneath you. The road doesn't go anywhere, it just sits there and lets your tires grab it. Water does the exact opposite. Push on it and it moves. Shove it hard and it moves faster. Engineers have a word for this: shearing, which is just the way a liquid slides and changes shape the instant any force touches it. There's nothing solid to clamp onto and no fixed surface for a brake to bite into. You could bolt the finest braking system ever imagined onto a hole and it would do absolutely nothing, because there's nothing down there to push against. That's the real reason boats don't have brakes, and it's worth being clear about. It isn't that nobody got around to inventing them, it's that floating on a liquid makes a normal brake physically impossible. So if there's no brake, what slows a boat down at all? Mostly one thing: drag. As the hull moves, it has to shove an enormous amount of water out of its path, and shoving all that water costs energy. And that cost is what bleeds your speed away. Here's the part that surprises people. Drag doesn't rise evenly with speed. It rises with the square of it. Double your speed and the water fights back 4 times as hard. Triple it and the water fights 9 times as hard. That one fact explains the whole strange way a boat slows down. When you chop the throttle at full speed, the drag is huge. So the boat sheds the top of its speed quickly and you feel it lurch down off plane. But as the boat slows, that drag collapses just as fast as it built. By the time you're crawling along at a few miles an hour, there's almost nothing left to slow you. So the boat creeps forward and won't quite quit. That long, lazy glide at the end is exactly the part that catches people at the dock. The boat felt like it was stopping. Then it spent the last 30 feet refusing to. If cutting the throttle just turns you into a glider, then you need something that actually pushes back against your motion. You've got exactly one tool for that, and it's the same propeller that drives you forward. Drop it into reverse and the prop spins the other way, throwing water toward the bow and shoving the boat backward against the direction it's traveling. That shove is the closest thing to a brake a boat will ever have. Every captain who's ever brought a boat alongside a dock has used it. Here's what nobody tells the new guy though. Reverse is a weak brake. A propeller is shaped and pitched to bite hard going forward, and the gear case is built to deliver its real muscle in that direction. Run it backward, and you get a fraction of that thrust, with blades pushing water in the direction they were never designed to push it. So the brake you're counting on in a panic is the softest version of your engine's power, right when you want the strongest. And it gets riskier than just being weak, which is where the mechanic side of this matters. Jam a boat into hard reverse and you drive the flat back wall of the boat, the transom, straight back into the water. Do it too aggressively and the water climbs right up over that transom and pours into the boat. On a low transom outboard rig, that's not a theory. That's how people swamp their own boat trying to stop it. The thing you did to avoid trouble is the thing that put 100 gallons in the bilge. There's a second way reverse comes back to bite you. When you slam to a stop, the wake you've been pushing ahead of yourself doesn't stop with you. It keeps rolling forward and catches up to your stern. And now you've got your own wave climbing over the back of the boat on top of everything else. Stop too hard in the wrong water, and you can get pooped by a wave you made yourself 30 seconds ago. Then there's the engine itself. Hard reverse can shove water back up the exhaust. And if your exhaust flappers are worn or gone, that water has a path straight toward the powerhead. Water where combustion is supposed to happen is the most expensive 5 seconds your engine will ever live through. And every time you slam the shifter from forward into reverse at high revs, you're hammering the gears at the dog clutch in the lower unit. Mechanics see the result of that all the time. Gear cases worn down years earlier by owners who treated the shifter like a brake pedal. The one real brake you've got is weak. It can put water in your boat and even in your engine, and it wears down the very part that delivers it. That's the trade you're making every time you grab reverse to stop. Reverse hides one more surprise, and it's the reason docking looks so easy for some people and turns into a circus for everyone else. When you back up, the stern doesn't go straight. It pulls to one side on its own, like the boat's got a mind of its own. The name for it is prop walk, and it comes from the propeller sitting at a slight angle in the water, so its blades push a little harder on one side than the other and drag the back of the boat sideways. On boats with an inboard engine and an angled shaft, that pull is strong. A typical right-hand prop will kick the stern hard to port the moment you give it reverse. And if you don't know it's coming, you'll swear the boat's broken. Here's the part that's pure good news if you run an outboard. Your motor's prop shaft sits almost level, near parallel to the surface, so an outboard produces barely any prop walk at all. That's a real quiet advantage of an outboard nobody advertises. You point the whole motor where you want the back of the boat to go and the stern follows. The inboard guys are fighting a sideways pull you mostly don't have. Now, the trap that actually hurts people. A boat only steers when water is flowing past the lower unit, because steering on the water isn't about pointing the wheel, it's about aiming thrust. No thrust, no flow, no steering. A boat coasting in neutral with the engine idling will not turn no matter how hard you crank the wheel. So, at the exact moment you cut power to slow down, you also throw away your ability to steer. You become a passenger on a few thousand pounds of fiberglass headed wherever it was already going. That single fact turns deadly on one kind of boat, and if you've ever been on a jet boat or a personal watercraft, you need to hear this. A jet drive steers only when it's making thrust, because the steering is the jet of water itself being aimed left or right. Pull the throttle back to nothing and you don't just slow down, you lose all steering instantly. Picture it. Somebody's headed toward another boat. They panic and they do the one thing every instinct screams to do. They let off the gas. And in that second, they lose the only thing that could have turned them away. And they ride a straight line right into the thing they were trying to miss. The instinct that keeps you alive in a car is the instinct that causes the crash on a jet boat. The fix is the opposite of what your gut says. You keep thrust on and you steer around it. So if stopping is this slow and this risky, what do the professionals actually do when something appears in their path? They don't try to stop. They steer around it. Ask any captain and they'll tell you the fastest way out of a collision almost never involves the throttle coming back. It involves the wheel going over, because changing your course will move you out of danger long before any attempt to stop ever could. Stopping is the amateur's instinct. Steering is the answer. If you want to see that idea taken to its absolute limit, look at the biggest ships on the water, because they live in a world where stopping basically isn't an option at all. A fully loaded supertanker traveling at normal speed takes around 20 minutes to come to a complete stop. Not 20 seconds, 20 minutes. In that time, it covers somewhere between 3 and 5 miles of ocean, which can be 15 to 20 of its own ship lengths, still sliding forward long after the order to stop was given. That's why these ships cut their engines as much as 15 miles out from where they're going. They need every foot of it. When one of these giants has a true emergency, it performs what's called a crash stop, throwing the engines into full reverse at maximum power. Even then, the absolute best it can manage is around 14 minutes. And the way it gets there is wild. On a big diesel ship, you can cut the fuel completely and the propeller will keep right on spinning, driven by the sheer momentum of the ship dragging it through the water. The engine won't stop on its own, so the crew blasts compressed air into it to physically force it to a halt. And only then can they spin it back up in reverse. The ship is so heavy it bullies its own engine into turning. Turning isn't any kinder. A loaded supertanker's turning circle is wider than 3 of its own lengths, close to a kilometer across for the big ones. That's about 10 football fields laid end to end just to come around. That same inability to turn in time is part of what made disasters like the Exxon Valdez possible. A ship that couldn't get out of its own way once the danger was right in front of it. These vessels don't dodge anything. They plan hours ahead. Because by the time a captain sees a problem and reacts, the ship has already decided where it's going. Your boat is thousands of times lighter than that tanker, so your numbers are tiny by comparison. But it's the same physics doing the same thing, just scaled down to your size. The water won't let a 300,000-ton ship stop in under 3 miles, and it won't let your 4,000-pound boat stop on a dime either. The only difference is how much room the mistake costs you. Once you understand that your boat can't really stop, the whole way you drive it changes, and it changes for the better. The oldest rule of docking exists for exactly this reason. Never approach anything faster than you're willing to hit it. Come in at idle, plan your slowdown far earlier than your car brain wants to, and give the water time to do the work, because the glide is real and it's longer than you think. The people who make docking look effortless aren't better drivers. They just started slowing down sooner. Treat reverse as a tool, not a panic button. Short, controlled bursts to check your speed and nudge the stern. Then back to neutral to let the boat settle and to keep your steering alive. Slamming it into full reverse should be the last thing you ever reach for, not the first, because of everything it can do to your engine and your boat in the process. And forget the idea you've probably seen somewhere of dropping the anchor to stop in an emergency. It barely works. An anchor is built to hold you in place with a long, low pull, and it needs 5 to 7 times the water's depth in chain stretched along the bottom before it grabs it all. Throw it over at speed, hoping it'll act like a brake, and you're far more likely to damage your gear or yourself than to actually stop. The anchor holds a still boat. It doesn't stop a moving one. So here's the thing to carry with you. The same water that holds your boat up is the same water that refuses to let it stop. And there's no fixing that with a part you can buy or a pedal you can press. It's just the deal you make the moment you leave the dock. The captains who respect that glide, who plan their stops early and keep their thrust when it counts, are the ones who never put a scratch on the boat. The ones who forget it are the ones explaining to everyone at the ramp how it happened. Now you know why your boat has no brakes. Drive it like it doesn't.